Son del mio tormento, amor seco. Welcome, everyone, to the return of the College of Marin Literary Magazine live meeting. No Zoom for us. And if some of you have petite, gentle, humble voices, you might notice that the mic thing didn't come through. So you might need to project a little bit. However, you can give the page number when you read your poem, and then we can all read along. So if we can't hear every word, we can read every word. All right then. So that little Italian ditty I sang, there was a line in there about why my heart lies dormant. I was thinking, you know, our hearts have been a bit dormant because we haven't seen each other enough in person. We haven't had events like this. We've been traversing through the Zoom world. And then even when we got through the Zoom world, we finally met in class, and then everyone had masks, and I was never quite sure about whether somebody had a mouth or not. And then in Zoom, all my students were so small. You know, they were like this big on the little boxes. They had such small students. So now, the return, with poetry and with art, you know, students got to deal with so much. I think we got to deal with a lot of teachers, especially English professors, because they have so many papers to grade, etc. But think of students, you know. As soon as they finish one paper, they've got to do another one. As soon as they finish one quiz or test, they've got to do another one. I mean, they're the embodiment of the challenge or the predicament of Sisyphus pushing the rock up. And they just, what do? They just go up and they push the rock up again. In the midst of all this, what is a way of dealing with challenges? Well, for people that have a spark of creativity in them, or we can say a spark of divine fire, they draw from their own inner resources. And that can come out in poetry or in art. And we should add that there's some beautiful artwork in here as well as fine poetry. There's been a lot said about poetry as a therapeutic adventure, you know? And I think it's true that poetry and art have a healing effect. They have a healing process. But the healing process is not just therapy for the person that does them. It's also for the person that witnesses it and appreciates it and takes it in. And therefore, you have poetry that see students dealing with so many things in their lives, not just all their papers and their quizzes, but then family things going on, you know? You can't forget that. So out of all this, you have student creativity. And I hope that they just keep that up for the rest of their lives as always an inner resource that they can draw from. No one can ever take that away from you! It's your own inner resource that's yours forever and ever. So you see students then drawing from that inner resource, having a healing process, not just for themselves, but for us, the readers, the viewers, because they touch on a level of feeling that's universal. Walt Whitman would do. It's the universal self. And so you read poems that touch on levels of feeling with family, with ancestors, with people that have passed on, with inner moments within themselves, or with the beauties of the planet. This is also dealing with the artwork that we have. So today's a celebration, not just coming back to having events like this live, but also celebration of student creativity and how really amazing and impressive it is. And this is spoken by someone who has read a lot. Both the so-called great people and the students that are working, developing their creativity. So it's a very impressive collection. So I say thank you to all of you who have contributed to the magazine, and thank you for all here. And with no more ado, we will start the process of that celebration. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My colleague Stephanie Mills and I, Trina Miller, have been co-advisors for the Literary Magazine Club for several years now. And it's one of the highlights of our work here at the College of Marin. Even during COVID, we had some very committed students who made it happen, and we had the virtual magazines, which was maybe one of the only creative, products that people were able to do during COVID. We have our former president, Ben Daly, give a wave, part of that COVID. So we wanted to just first of all say that none of us would be here, we wouldn't have this magazine if it weren't for a very committed group of students. We had the most robust response to our call for club members this year than we've ever had in our entire history at the college. So I would love to ask all of our members right now, our board members, our club members, to please stand up and give a wave. You guys have done such incredible work on this magazine. Thank you. So that's how it begins. It begins with us saying, anyone want to do this? Because we're not going to do this project just the two of us. This is a student-run project. We guide. And so we're always sort of like, who's going to show up? Who's going to do the work? And we had just an amazing crew. Thank you all so much for all of your hard work. Do you want to talk about the process?
Yeah.
Getting this magazine going?
The next step in our process is putting out a call for submissions, and that is similarly like, what if no one submits? What if no one submits? We had so many beautiful submissions this year, more than I can remember having in several years. So much gorgeous art, much more color art than, visual pages in our magazine than we've ever had before. And so much more poetry too. So we were just thrilled with the number of submissions. Our editors were really, culling through them and figuring out, how to narrow it down because they had such great work to choose from. So for all of you who submitted, we're so inspired and thrilled at how much art we got from all of you, written and visual. And then we of course had we had to get a lot of help from administration, the president, the vice president, our dean, scrabbling for the money to put it out, and reprographics, like putting it together for us at the last minute. So we had a lot of administrative help across the campus, and I think how supportive everybody was about that, which is just a testament to this college's commitment to art and student creativity. So that felt really wonderful to see how much instant support we had from anybody we asked. The librarians, the administration, the reprographics, everybody was just like, how can we serve you? How can we help to make this happen? So we had a fantastic editorial team, a deluge of beautiful submissions, and then campus support. So it's really a positive experience. And that's why we have this volume to share with you.
Yeah.
Thanks to our editors, most of all.
Yeah. And just a reminder that this is student work, faculty, and staff work. So anybody part of the College of Marin community was invited to share their creative vision and voices, and it's a real representation of the beautiful talents and skills and hard work of our community. So, just want to remind you guys, we don't have a microphone today. A little glitch in the system. So if you can hear me, can you guys hear me in the back? Okay. So I'm not yelling, but I'm also not whispering. So if you guys can raise your voices as you read your work, you don't have to yell. Just make sure you're able to kind of hear that all the way in the back. And we just want to encourage you guys. This is not easy to get up in front of people. Even for those of us who've been doing it for a long time, it's not easy to get up in front of a group of people you don't know. But this is one of the safest, most supportive environments I could possibly imagine. And if this is your 5th time or your first time reading your work out loud, I just want to say, give it a try. It feels really good. And once you've done it once, it's a little easier to do it again.
So this is a very art-friendly community who have come to hear you read and to see your art. So let's share it with them out loud. And please, if you're reading a poem or a verbal work out of the magazine, please share the page number so people can look at your text while you're reading it.
This is informal, so we don't have a list of people who've signed up in a certain order.
Yeah, we just want to invite anybody who's willing to hop up and read. And if we don't, what do you say?
I just want to encourage everybody, just come up at random, self-motivated, and just do it and don't be shy, because we all want to hear it. So, first person up, be brave.
If you would like your work read and you don't want to be the one to read it, we'll read it for you.
Yes.
We'd like to hear a lot of this stuff read by the original authors. So,
Can we get a first go? Who would
an
like to-
icebreaker.
Yeah, who will be our icebreaker?
And at the end, we'll have prizes.
Yay!
Please introduce yourself and then tell us what page to look at.
If you have more than one poem, you may read more than one if you want.
Or you can come back a second time. Come, whatever you want.
My name is Isabella Sanders. I'm first in the book, page 7.
All right.
This is my poem, Contemplation on Versions of the Self. If I were to travel back in time and meet myself, would we even be the same person? If I met myself yesterday, we might be, save for some knowledge on entropy and the orange I had for breakfast. How far would I need to travel to consider myself a new person? A year ago, I wasn't the same as I am today. Does that make us different people? If it's our experiences that make us into who we are, every version of who I've become is a foundation for the next, the same soul eternally evolving. Who knows what the next version will look like? Slowly we grow, like a sapling in the ground. Days turn into nights. Every year adds another ring to our spines.
Do we have someone else who wants to go next?
We're going to save our prizes till the end, but we'd like to hear.
Yes, we have prizes at the end. Yeah, we forgot that. Someone? Anyone?
Hi everybody, I'm Alexander J. Glenn, and you can find my poem on page 16. Ancient song. The bones quake, ancient bones. They dance to the rhythm of the mountain. To the thrum of the earth, the bones quake, ancient bones. They hear the song under the mountain. Come rest your quaking bones under the sycamore, and sing an ancient song with me. Hear with me, oh sing with me, the song of the world, the sound of oak growing, the hymn of memory known by every blade of grass. The ballad of mushroom, hear with me, oh sing with me, melody of the sun, night song of the moon, rejoice, and come sing an ancient song with me. And on the next page, on 18, this is called Chloranthe. Sun, did you hear the rustling of the lone oak? A whisper of my touch upon your cheek. A western wind green as spring, warmed by the morning in the golden valley of your fathers. Daughter, have you heard us sing in the blue waters, in the river of your mother's heart? Blue veins feed the green mountain, cold as the northern winds, in the emerald valley of your fathers. And my last one is on the next page. Nyx, the Greek goddess of the night. Sometimes in the dark, the shadowy river whispers stories of another time, the blood that flowed freely and of the soul's ferry to the shores of twilight. Sometimes in the dark, a river black as a moonless night offers tranquility to those who drink its waters. An offering of ice upon pale lips will please the sightless god, whom will grant the embrace of a dreamless sleep. Take the cool river into your heart, open the door to ether and see into the eye of eternal remembrance. Take the love and truth that never sway, unerring as stars light onto eternity.
Yeah, come on up.
Hello, my name is Walter. I wrote Blueberries on page 54. It's one of the longer ones, so bear with me, please. I originally wrote this for Dr. Tipton's class, and sorry, I didn't show you it. But, in the cheapest church one could find to rent, a very lively funeral was underway. There was no procession, no flowers, and not but a single picture of the deceased. The woman in the urn was not fond of pictures anyways. She had lived a rustic, luddic lifestyle, and in the end, died very old in her cabin. She was found by a local grocer, concerned after only a single day without seeing her and her fresh-cut flowers. At this funeral, the bar is getting the most activity, where distant and close relatives drink and joke with family they would otherwise not see until Christmas. Throughout the hours, people have come in a steady stream, each more late than the last, but none as late as the woman's daughter, Jane. Now a woman herself, Jane has a single child at home with a husband who is instructed not to come. On walking through the doors, Jane gives a flaccid apology for her tardiness and recommends that it might be time for her to say what she has prepared. Uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, in-laws, and the like all tear themselves away from the bar and shuffle obligatorily to the congregation. The young woman pulls a half-dozen note cards from her purse and timidly takes the podium. She stands somewhat dry-mouthed and looks for courage at the urn, but only sees the white plastic folding table it sits on. So she begins. Last time I saw Mom, I must have been 8. Before I ever even met her, I had heard all about her from all of you guys every Christmas. I had heard she was a nut, that she lived in the woods with magic spells and a spare room for her skulls. So when Dad got into the wreck, I was a bit nervous getting into the taxi. And during the 3-hour drive to the middle of nowhere, I had nothing to do except think about what she would be like and wonder if anything I heard was true. And the minute I showed up, I could already tell that all of it was. She makes eye contact at this last part and sees chuckles rumble through the audience. A pleasing, nerve-dulling reaction. So, every morning we had this ritual. We would get up at 4 in the morning and march through the woods for an hour, rain or shine. It was so early that we needed flashlights for at least the first half of the trip, all just to reach this little clearing full of blueberry bushes. She said it was powerful. A piece of God's garden fallen from heaven. It was a silly place, just this tiny little clearing full of blueberries that I could have walked across in about 40 kitty-sized steps, which was impossible because the quick one. Because there wasn't a straight line in the place. The ones around the edge of the clearing were large and thick, but the ones closer to the trees were all scrawny and small, and they clumped together or scattered randomly, so the only footpaths were uneven and intersected oddly, probably beaten down by whatever deer or animal hung out there. It was a magical place. Well, this one morning, we walked through the thick forest mist for an hour and show up just a few minutes after sunrise. We arrive, waltzing into the clearing like normal, and suddenly, I'm face to face with the ass end of a black bear. Both of us freeze solid, but I'm so scared that I can't even breathe. I look up at Mom, and she is slack-jawed and awe. Her eyes are bug wide, and she has this peaceful smile that I think is carved into me forever. I can't remember her face, or her clothes, or her hair, but every time I remember those chapped lips, I'm a kid again, wondering what it would be like to ever feel what she felt. I bet if I wasn't there, Mom would have stayed forever, and that bear would have eaten her. But there I was, scared out of my mind, and that bear had no idea we were there. He's just chowing down on this bush, ripping berries off all at once, and shredding the poor thing. From the middle row, one uncle makes a quiet joke to one cousin. They contain their laughter like an overfull cup, and are destined to grow louder. I didn't realize it, but between clinging to her and clenching my fists in fear, I dug my nails into her butt and snapped her out of it. She looked down at me so disappointed, like I had just ruined the greatest moment of her life. But I'd gotten some sense into her, and she realized that she couldn't get me eaten too, so, no joke, I swear to God, she reaches her arms up like this and roars at the top of her lungs. Jane Tourette reenacts this with a sweeping arm motion and a playful roar. That bear's nose nearly plowed up dirt. It ran away so fast. Mom scared it so bad the poor thing didn't even look back, even with the bear gone, still shaking. I finally get to look around the alcove now, and I see every bush torn up and destroyed. That bear had ruined the place. I'm just a kid, terrified out of my pants, tired, upset, hopeless, and this ruined me too. I broke down in tears, and I remember pointing at the thicket he stomped out of and yelling, "Curse him, Mom! Use your magic and curse that bear for ruining our berries!" She mocks her own child voice, then mocks her mother's with a raspy, crony impersonation. "Janet, that's such a silly thing to want." But I was so upset. I begged and begged, where eventually she gave in, and the story comes to a sour stop. Jane interrupts herself to address the talkers in the middle row. The unbearable talkers, who by now had grown from whisper to conversation. I'd like to remind everyone that this is a funeral. It goes without saying that adults have no problem staying quiet when asked to at a funeral. Even the kids have done a nice job listening, but maybe we all aren't as mature as them. Her criticism hears silence, and the fear that haunted her at the start returns, realized. "Right, Mom, I've lost it. I can't remember anymore. For real, guys, this isn't a party, and it's not Christmas. Mom is dead, and I shouldn't have to be the one to remind those two to have some fucking respect." The woman spends a second thinking back, but it is hard to remember with frustration on the forefront of her mind. When she returns to the story, fear is completely cast aside for bitterness. Yet, I begged a lot and cried, and she gave in. I held out my left hand, but she kneels down with me and holds up her right. Jane holds up her right hand, the index and middle finger pointed up, while the rest are curled. I don't know a lot about magic, but she had taught me some right-handed charms. Things like blessings and wishes. These are not curses. Anyways, she grabs my hand. She grabs the hand I held out and holds it while she incants. First, she blesses the alcove we're in, then the bushes, asking them to grow back strong and healthy. Then she stares at the path wrecked down by the fleeing bear. "To you, you hungry coward," she recites with a rich expression. "May you enjoy those berries with a belly so full you have no room left to eat silly little girls who think they own the gifts of God." And she pulled me in, and she hugged me. That was the only time she ever hugged me, and I don't know why. When Dad got better, he took me home, and I never saw her again. I never told him that story either, which is a shame, because he would have loved it. He loved that she was a loner. He loved that she used magic and loved animals. He even once told me how nice life might be if he could live like her in the woods with nature. Now please go back to the bar and think about why he never told you. Jane folds the notes back into her purse.
My name is Magnolia, and I'm going to read poetry called Magnolia.
What page is that on?
It is on the page 28.
Thank you.
Magnolia tree grows in the sunshine. Sky is blue. I feel peaceful. The season transitions. Springtime is arriving. Magnolia flowers are blossoming, attracting a glimpse and a busy working bee. Nature's orchestra makes sound of buzzing. Moments are passing. Life flows. To recreate, Magnolia tree gifted abundance of pollen for grateful reminder. Say wow to life and busy bees.
My poem is on page 12. It's called Dad. Sometimes in the dark, I can see what the sun cannot illuminate. Sometimes I see my own face, staring back at me. Sometimes it's your face, reflecting on my own. Sometimes if I can sink into the darkness, long enough, deep enough, completely submerged, I can reach out and touch you. Like the worlds of the living and dead never separated us. Sometimes in the dark, nothing separates us at all.
Hello, my name is Noah. My poem is Bleeding Sky, and it is on page 61. The sky is bleeding, bleeding smoke, bleeding ash, choking for breath. Where is the sun? The sun is alone, far away. The earth is alone. Where is the moon? It is night, yet it is day. The sun has not risen or fallen through the clouds. There is an orange glow high up in the sky. Down low near the ground, it is orange and it is gray. Is this the new normal? No, it is not. It is a temporary event. It repeats every year. Tomorrow it will be gray and smoky but not orange. Not the glow of fluorescent lights, not the glow of toxic chemicals, not the choke of darkness. Soon the sky will turn. Later, the air will turn. Later still, it will be over. For this year. But next year is always around the corner.
Hi, I'm Lisa Sebastian, and I'm going to read Blood Memory on page 40, 41. Also, just want to say thank you to all the artists who put artwork in here. Yes.
Yes.
Blood memory. I carry blood memory. I believe I carry the blood memory of my great-grandmother, the one abandoned in the square. My son asks, how come he attracts crazy? How come crazy feels he is approachable? How does it know he will listen? Blood memory smeared on his sleeve. When I was 15, I would drive my fantastical uncle to VA hospital, 65 minutes from home, with only a driver's permit. He was my adult. He was my licensed driver. He was my person required for me to drive without an actual license. Blood memory understood this, empathized with him, his inner voice, his wild manner. It normalized the unnormal. Blood memory remembers tumbleweed alone in the square, to be thought of as wild, barefoot, bare feet, to feel grounded in a city of wandering souls. Wild hair because it wasn't brushed, wild because no reason. Blood memory knows what it was like to be caught between two worlds, to be connected to a creation story, felt infinitesimal in a native universe, but floating in a modern world, algae bloom, suffocating your connectivity to the natural world and living organisms. Blood memory remembers her confusion, the love, the broken promise, his eyes, blue eyes, green eyes, hazel eyes, her duality. Blood memory remembers all of this through brown eyes with blue rings. And then, I have to show this art because it's really thin. But, so 42, the next page, and I think there's supposed to be a two-line thing. So, it's called Kai To'osh Inda Yo'i. He sees me. Kai, willow above the creek.
So I'm actually not reading my own, I'm reading the work of Sabrina Cope, who couldn't make it today, but I thought that her work deserved to be heard.
Yeah, good for you. That's great.
And it is on page 48, titled Frankenstein's Monster's Daughter. Green skin, mint ice cream, freckled with dark chocolate chips. Purple eyes, lavender blossoms, so potent and vibrant from miles away. Black hair, midnight sky, shiny and silky smooth. Bones built of uncompromising diamond. Skull stuffed with storm clouds. Veins pump, stardust and gold. Thank you.
Hi.
It's been a while, but I'm going to try. My name is Patricia France, and my poem is on page 8 and 9. It's called The Surrogate, imitation of Jori Felici's poem, The Naming. I think of faces that stare back at me. They are like apparitions. I give them names, watch them grow like the earth expands its girth. The placenta is not forming in my body, but it's still there, getting smaller, turning into a seed of someone else, my friends and others. I give spirit to those kernels of flesh. My mother did not take long to name me. My conception moved like earthworms in the dirt, and there is no another word for me. Nature can only form my skin. My ears hear voices. As a child, my mom said, when you pray, God speaks to you. Something unhooked. I look for signs and concrete cracks of what holds me back. Keep looking back, hovering the clouds in the rear of my mind. Frightened, morning blessings of the owls ringing in my ears. Shadows hide around the corner of my bed. Take another lover, scratching the breath beneath my fingernails, filling me up with names I gave during ritual scene of ground groaning on the seventh day. A friend confirms my strength while she sweeps children's ghosts out the door. She wiped the kitchen tables as she spoke of contentment by candlelight. They knocked gently on our hearts. My mother only gave birth to 3, losing the other 2. They could not find the shining light through her, and they went back to the dirt under the earth. I see them in my darkest days. One night, I feel a soul choose my friend to be her mother. I awake to a sense a new day is forming, and there's nothing else to wish for in the world. I went for a walk through eucalyptus trees. I heard a crack and a branch fell somewhere. Or was that me? I take in the air to fill my body, a new spirit. It gives me new arches in my feet. I kept moving forward and showed love to someone last night. In an illusion, I see a sea of children playing in a garden, picking flowers, laughing, making decisions with God about who will be their favorite. St. Nicholas gave them their names in my sleep. A child can be born without my blood. Give it a name, and it will be true. My mother taught me this when she told stories of me being born with no possessions. My days are leaning over newborns. The Mother of God knows me by name. Her arms are heavy with bassinets of virtues. I am thirsty for milk.
Hello, I'll be reading A Disappearing Act on page 53. My friend says he knows real magic to make himself disappear. Not the card concealed with a flip and wink and wonder, but the same deck laid out and no one noticed the missing club even though they all play poker on Thursday nights. An empty hat pulled through itself by sleight hands, and the audience demanded a trick. Where's the trick? But they don't see the smile he had years ago vanished too also. Both magician, knife, assistant, and table halved in half until he's slim enough to fit through the keyhole of a locked door. I knocked on the door, but my question answered with its own echo. This trick isn't the brilliant escape. It's waiting there, tied underwater until we look away. And suddenly he's not here. But be here, please. Please be here.
I'm William Stipton, and I'm near the end of the book, page 72.
What was that? Speak up.
Page 72.
Oh, thank you.
The shadowy river flows under the old trees to our people who have passed to other worlds. And it takes us past the stone walls of the high canyons, the trunks of the sequoias, the descending flute of the canyon wren, to that one broad, open expanse of the river sees itself breathing under heaven. Your grandma home?
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Teacher pressure. So, sorry, it's page 44. Grandma Nita. I'm the daughter of Tumbleweed. I was the freestanding plates resting on the rim of some old wooden slats. I was the young girl who at 9 years old won the Galesburg, Illinois boxcar decorating contest. My carriage was loaded with an ebullient array of antique china plates. Mason blue, Canton rose, carnelian, and Eden turquoise. No nails, each one entrusted, delicately resting on rows of thin wooden bars. So much trust. At 2 o'clock, the freight train rolled in, horn blowing. An endless array of screeching, of metal on metal, forcing a sonar current, a wave of plate-shattering energy. There I was, a fragmented 9-year-old girl, bits and pieces, pink and blue, sprawled across a dusty floor. I spent a lifetime trying to put my pieces back together.
My story is on page 64. Sorry, do you have a comment? It's okay, I know her. I'm not just hectoring people.
No hecklers.
Where do I start talking about Libby? The day I met her, she was wearing a silver necklace, a point shoe on a thin chain. She caught me looking at her. She asked if I danced. I said no. I got kicked out of toddler ballet for taking my shoes off too much. She said she never had, but loved to watch it. She held out her hand to shake mine. Had I just passed a test? I told her my name and the long-winded explanation that always comes with it. Alexei is a Russian boy's name my history professor parents thought was a fun reference to their favorite period of time. Pre-revolutionary Russia. You know, before they shot and killed Prince Alexei. Poor guy was hemophiliac anyway, and he didn't stand a chance, but thanks to good old Prince Bleeds a Lot, I have a name that people can't understand, is not Alexis, and is not a spelling my parents made up to make me unique. Her name also had an explanation. It was supposed to be Elizabeth Maria Brandt, the same name as her grandmother and great-grandmother, all the way back to the Mayflower. When she first told me, it sounded like a joke. We're Mayflower people. Ah yes, as if the travel plans of one's ancestors are all important. But her father's upstart sister-in-law got pregnant first and named the girl Elizabeth Maria, despite her father having the obvious claim as the firstborn son. And the girl named Elizabeth, so she was named Elspeth, the closest possible variation. Oh, and it's okay, they still summered with her aunt, uncle, and cousin Ellie anyway. Libby and I were classic opposites, but easy friends. She found my drenching sarcasm funny, and I found her strangely nice. I wasn't a total loner, but I didn't do well in clumps of students in the quad. The girls who wouldn't sit on the grass for fear it would stain their miniskirts. The boys wanted to explain why everything they thought was more intelligent than what others thought. The students who just smoked most of the day. I might have been at a private Midwestern college, but I couldn't crack into the mainstream intellectual life back then. But our friendship wasn't built off of just needing each other. Plenty of poor, awkward co-eds have done so, but not us. We were like a buddy cop movie without the car chases. I'd say something stupid or too loudly, and she'd make a naive quip, and off we'd run from the laundry room before the sorority wannabes knew what had happened. The only downside was the difference she couldn't see. She wasn't snooty at all, not like the students my dad warned me to stay away from. The kids who thought the world was made for them. I told him we had gotten rid of the feudal system. But I could notice things she couldn't. Every semester or so, her mother sent her a box of clothes. She wasn't particularly fashion obsessed, as far as I could tell. She must have owned about 20 knee-length skirts and at least as many cardigans. Before that look was trendy, too. I asked what catalog she was ordering from, and she looked at me like it was a silly question. Her mother chose her things for her. I rolled my eyes, thinking back to the pajamas my aunt used to send me. She didn't pick up on it, though. Libby wore everything her mother chose. Nothing got returned, and she never told her mother what she wanted or didn't want. After that, I slowly learned a lot of things about her family. Not because she sat me down and did a lecture or anything, just details I picked up slowly. And I talked to her mom once on the phone. Libby was the only college student to want to talk to her parents all the time. Her mom told her to drop her drawing and painting class, and Libby said she would without asking why. Little things. I know that sounds so stupid. Of course they get a say, they're the ones paying the tuition. I sound paranoid. One day I casually flipped through a pamphlet on controlling relationships. Persuading after someone has said no, convincing a person that not agreeing with them will hurt them, convincing a person that they know better. But I knew I was being irrational, who didn't have cushy parents. I asked my dad one day, say my friend seemed to be making all of her decisions off of what her parents wanted. Clothes, college major, where she'd move after. He said we were both young and still had a lot of growing up to do. If you're thinking now the whole friendship had turned into a weird obsession or endless discussion of her family, these were only a few things that happened over about 3 years. For the most part, we were regular college friends, just without the alcohol, or the boyfriends. I've seen some guys that reminded me why college men are a particularly brand of awful, but the only boyfriend Libby needed was Mr. Darcy. She would have done amazing in another time period, one where it wasn't unusual for women to be controlled by their families. Libby burst into my dorm room one night, truly, unironically squealing. There was a new movie based on Pride and Prejudice. This was before streaming services, so she looked up every movie theater nearby and took me to see the movie the day it opened. We both ditched a class and then went to the matinee when students got a discounted rate. 2 days later, she needed to see it again, so we went back, this time when we didn't have classes. And back. It was like a little kid with a carousel. She couldn't get enough. And I think between 5 or 6 times, I remembered every character's name. She told me I didn't have to come see it every time with her. You didn't have to see it with me every time, she said, as we stepped into the cool Midwestern evening. Sorry, do you want some alone time with Darcy? I could throw a stink bomb in the theater and you could plug your nose. I pointed back at the theater. No, you did it because you're a great friend. That was definitely a high point. Fine, I will make this quicker. So 7 years later, I went to her wedding. We'd written but hadn't seen each other since the last letter I got had a photo of her and her fiancé tucked in. Cliff. I could become a stand-up artist just to make fun of that name. Yes, fine. So when I got out of the cab and walked in, 20 or so people were standing in a gigantic hall. Ellie, the name-stealing cousin, checked people off on a clipboard. I introduced myself to a couple of men, or more generously put, Vineyard Vine catalog models. One said his name was Cliff and that he had to leave. That was all I saw of Cliff, and I think all of what Libby saw too. The whole weekend he wasn't there. Business calls, slept too late. Between the gaggle of Boston cousins, I barely saw Libby alone either. Then one evening, she had her head in her hands, and when she saw me, she said it was just a headache. Okay, fine, I'll rush this along. But I asked her point blank if she loved Cliff, if he was her Darcy. I could gag after saying that out loud. She told me Darcy doesn't exist. Cliff is real. Was I being the jerk here? Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there because of my hatred of the rich, or envy. Here she was standing in this mile-round dress in the middle of Barbie's dream wedding, while I could barely afford the plane ticket out here. I said she should wait if she wasn't sure she loved him. I said she didn't have to do whatever her parents wanted her to. Again, with my parents, she asked. If I was going down, I was going to hit rock bottom. I told her I didn't know how these vain, shallow people could have this amazing, kind, intelligent daughter, but treat her like she's an accessory. I will leave when I am finished with my eulogy. Thank you. And she said she was sorry. Sorry I had student loans and no boyfriend, and my eat-the-rich attitude hadn't gotten you far. She said she was sorry. I had to be the poor friend all these years, and that it was apparently all her fault. And I said, let's stop, think, and then Ellie, oh, don't give me that look, walked in. Libby said she wanted me to leave. Ellie was closing the door on me as I looked back at Libby for what would be the last time. Staring at the carpet and wiping her eyes off, then she looked up at me. I thought maybe that was my chance, that I'd gotten through to her. Then she turned away again. I really wanted to see Libby again, but how do you rebound from that? I was still too stubborn to apologize, and as far as her new life went, old leftist friends from college didn't fit in. So that's where the story technically ends. But I like to think of it as a circle. Corny, I know, but whenever I remember how it ended, I go back to remembering how we met and everything in between. Libby was an amazing person, an amazing friend, and I'm sorry I really couldn't do her justice here. I always hoped that she'd realize she was worth a whole lot more than being a prop for her family, and she did. 2 weeks ago, she wrote me for the first time in 5 years. She asked me for help. She was going to leave Cliff. I am almost done! And she mailed the letter with some bills, pulled out of the parking lot, and got hit instantly. And now we're here. And now I'll leave before you all make me, because I've said my piece. I wanted to tell you all who Libby was, not what you all wanted her to be. Thank you.
Again, my name is Tristan Miller, and I am on page 22. Actually, I'm going to do the other one first, page 24. When I was a kid, I had the incredible luck to grow up in this bucolic wildness of the foothills of Santa Rosa. I had an honorary uncle, and every single weekend we would go out there. We would take our shoes off and we wouldn't put them back on for 2 days. There were rattlesnakes, and we found them. We wandered way too far. There were no digital phones. No one knew where the hell we were. And it was the gift of a lifetime. My uncle died a few years ago, and I was able to read him the draft of this poem, which I finally finished and wanted to share with you. Strange syllabus. We studied the rolling hills, our bare feet expertly calloused by summer's end. Pigs roasting in the ground, the apples in their mouths, the humor of our wild repast. And the original zip line, a pogo stick on a wire, smack through the middle of the compound. Our warnings to watch out below, not always successful. Some casualties of our thrill-seeking, a price we gladly paid. Plucking sunflower seeds from actual sunflowers. Sentries at Monan's Rill, where we fit in with the flower children of a peaceful commune. Outside our lives, the sorcery of this cabin's campus taught us. Our lesson, the wildness, the unscripted catechism of snakes, of trees, of fires burning to embers, never turning away from our communion, each of us feral and delighted to be. And the other bookend is the poem Home on page 22. This is about an experience I had this year where I defied the adage that you can never go home again. Home, by the way, is Santa Rosa, where my mom still lives in the house I grew up in. Home. It is morning, and I am walking down the brick stairs to my childhood home. They are like a stepped red carpet, the liminal space between now and then. Water drips from the oak trees, the plunks hearkening to me a dewy reveille. Outside, the dimly fogged morning light comes through a monument of windows that frame the grand parental oak trees. Inside, the Danish candles wink at me, and the grandfather clock ticks, and the house sighs. For a moment, no time has passed, no years of loss and wisdom, no churning earth, and for a moment, I am nothing else but home. Thank you. Any more short stories? Sonnet or two? Oh, there was a sonnet in here.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that. Hey guys, my name's Ben Daly. You might know me, I'm president of Undecided Alpha Gamma Sigma. I was president of LibMag last year, and I heard they were doing a literary magazine this year. I was really excited, and just before the submission deadline, I managed to get this in. I really wrote on the spot in like 20 or 30 minutes, but I really loved the poetry unit when I had Wells's, what is it, Comp 1B? Yep. Yes, I loved it. And also, in accordance with the Shakespeare class I'm going to take with Trina, and my love for the Elizabethan tongue and the wondrous fantasy of spring, I wrote this. An iambic pentameter. And I think you can read it like that if you want, on your own time.
Page?
Page 38.
All right.
Give me a second to get that. Oh, minted green, oh, verdant lover's sheet, whose soft aroma on the heat so rides, to waver, lost among her senses sweet, a season sweeter spent we seldom find. She calls herself into a hostess task of fostering balmy passions, young and wild, a festival of loves to come and pass, not till they spark and fester, never mild. The senses of this gathering simple speak, the birds cacophon, flowers interject, the trees decorum and the sun critiques. Remember, render, revel, love, live, let. I pine to watch this fragrant comedy of nature in her booth, entwined with me.
Woo!
Let's hear it one more time for Ben Daly. So this poem is actually a song, so I thought I'd bring my guitar and sing it. It's on page number 35.
35, did you say?
Yep.